Hi everyone, welcome to this video on Math OD1 3.2 where we solve word problems using proportions. So this screenshot that I have here is just literally a list of steps that the textbook suggests that we use. They suggest that we first assign a variable to the unknown quantity and then set up fractions or ratios. They say that we're going to have one known ratio and one unknown ratio. And we use a proportion to set those equal to each other, and then we will solve. So let's get started with a concrete example. Remember, one strategy when you're working with word problems is to circle, underline, or highlight all of the pieces of the word problem that sound important. So I'm going to do that as I read through this. A recipe that makes 18 cupcakes requires 3 eggs. How many eggs are needed to make 4 dozen or 48 cupcakes? So, which of these 4 things that I underlined is going to be our variable? If you said how many eggs, that is correct. I'll use X for my variable. You can use whatever variable you like. So remember they said we're going to have a known ratio. So our known ratio is that if I want to make 18 cupcakes, that I need to have 3 eggs. That's my known ratio. So over here on the other side is going to be my unknown ratio. And the key to success for all of these problems, no matter what you're doing, no matter what kind of proportion you have, is that your units have to be the same on both sides. So if I have cupcakes upstairs on the left, then guess what? I have to have cupcakes in the numerator on the right-hand side. If I have eggs over here, then I have to have eggs over here. As long as you have symmetry, as long as these units match with these units, and these units match with these units over here, then you will be successful. Okay, so how many eggs? So where should that X go? Should it go here next to the cupcakes? Or should it go here next to the eggs? If you said that it should go next to the eggs, then you're correct. Okay, then we have 48 cupcakes, so that 48 has to go upstairs next to the cupcakes. And lo and behold, we actually have a proportion. We have 18 over 3 equals 48 over X. And that's something that we can solve using cross multiplication. So we have 18x is equal to 3 times 48. So you can use your calculator to multiply 3 times 48, and that will give you 144. And then we can divide that number by 18. Okay, and we find out that we need 8 eggs in order to make 4 dozen or 48 cupcakes. Okay, let's do another example. It says water is being pumped out of a basement at a rate of 140 gallons per hour. Remember, I'm going to underline or circle things that seem important. Then it says how many hours, that's my variable, I'm going to call it X, how many hours will it take to pump 2,030 gallons of water out of the basement? Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky because you might notice we only have 2 numbers this time and not 3. So what are the 2 units? If you look at the last problem, remember our 2 units were cupcakes and eggs. So pause this video and see if you can figure out what are the 2 units in this problem. If you said gallons and hours, you are correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 140 gallons per hour. Actually is a second piece of information. That means in 1 hour, 140 gallons of water are being pumped out of the basement. And if you want to write water here, you can do that. Okay, so we have 140 gallons of water in 1 hour. Okay, And remember, whatever is upstairs, whatever units are upstairs on the left-hand side, you have to have the same exact units on the other side. And I can do that without even looking at the other pieces of information, okay? Because again, gallons has to match gallons, and hours has to match hours. They have to match, okay? So then we have this 2030, so that should go next to the gallons, because that's a measurement of how much water we have. And then we have our variable x, and that's the number of hours. So I have succeeded once again in creating a proportion. So we can cross multiply as we do. And then at this point, I probably am going to have to get out my calculator because I don't think I can do that math in my head. And so we divide both sides by 140. And if I type that into the calculator correctly, that gives me 14.5 hours. Okay, let's do another problem. Okay, so this one is a science or chemistry problem. It says you need to combine 98 grams of sulfuric acid and 70 grams of sodium hydroxide to produce sodium sulfate. Then it says how many grams of sulfuric acid, so that's going to be our variable x right here, would need to combine with 20 grams of sodium hydroxide. Okay, so remember the key here is to set up your known ratio. So in this case, it's going to be 98 grams of sulfuric acid over 70 grams of sodium hydroxide. And I guess if you knew the chemical symbols for these chemicals, then you could use those and it would be faster to write. But I don't, so we're just going to go with it. Okay? So remember, before I even read the rest of the problem, I go ahead and write out my units on the other side. So I'm going to have sulfuric acid on the top, and I'm going to have sodium hydroxide on the bottom. Okay, so it says how many grams of sulfuric acid? So that's x. Okay, sulfuric acid is upstairs, so that's where the x goes. Sodium hydroxide is downstairs. It says 20 grams, so 20 grams has to go downstairs. And again, the way that I figured that out was really simple. All I did was made sure that these units and these units match each other, and then I made sure that these units and these units matched each other. Okay, there has to be symmetry there. So we have 98 over 70 equals x over 20, right? This is the easier part of it. So then we just cross multiply. 70x is equal to 20 times 98. This is the part of the show where we take out our calculators. So we have 1960, and then we divide by 70. So x is going to be 28 grams of sulfuric acid. And that's your answer. Okay, let's do some more problems. Okay, it says you know that there are 56 milligrams of cholesterol in 3.5 ounces of trout. Then it says how much cholesterol, we'll call that X, is there in 8 ounces of trout. Okay, so again, we're going to set up our proportion. So we have 56 milligrams of cholesterol over 3.5 ounces of trout equals, and again, I'm not even going to read anything. I'm just going to write out the milligrams of cholesterol on this side, and I'm going to write ounces of trout on this side. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and fill this in. So they're asking us how much cholesterol, so that X has to go upstairs, and then they're giving us 8 on the bottom, 8 ounces. So take a minute, look at this proportion here, and see if you can figure out what we need to do first. And think about the examples we did in the previous video. If you said that we need to fix this mixed number first, then you are correct. Our 3.5 needs to become 3 times 2 plus 1, which is 7/2. So before I can actually solve this proportion, I need to rewrite it so that my mixed number is actually an improper fraction. That's always the first step if you have a mixed number in your proportion. Okay, so now I can cross multiply. So I have 56 times 8 is equal to 7/2 x. So what is 56 times 8? So that gives us 448 is equal to 7x over 2. Okay, so this almost looks like another proportion if you put 448 over 1. So one way to solve this, not the only way, you certainly don't have to do that, is to cross multiply one more time. And then we divide by 7. And we get x equals 128. And the units are milligrams of cholesterol. Okay, I think we have time for one more example. Okay, it says a single tablet of 1-a-day vitamin for men contains 75 milligrams of vitamin C. And then it says how many milligrams, so we'll call that X, of vitamin C, you can include that too, are in 2 1/3 tablets of 1-a-day vitamins. So, if you want, you can pause the video and think about what are the 2 units we're really looking at here. See if you can figure that out. So if you said that the 2 units are the number of tablets and the milligrams of vitamin C, then you are correct. So another thing to circle here that I didn't circle is the fact that we have a single tablet of a 1-a-day vitamin. So we're going to write 1 tablet is 75 milligrams of vitamin C. And then before looking at anything else, I'm just going to write tablet on the top and milligrams on the bottom. Okay, so let's fill this out. So the other number that we're given is 2 1/3 tablets. And then we're asked to find the number of milligrams of vitamin C that would be contained in that. Hopefully you can see that this is a mixed number. So the first thing we have to do, we're going to have 2 times 3 plus 1 over 3, 7/3. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do is to convert our mixed number to an improper fraction. And then, having done that, we can solve our proportion. So we have 1x, or x, is equal to 75 times 7 over 3. And if you type that into your calculator, you get 175 milligrams of vitamin C. So x is equal to 175 milligrams of vitamin C. And that concludes this video.